please ask lots of questions because there's so many things I did to this, I can't even remember everything I did. So this is, it's about 95% recycled. And almost all local materials. And it's super energy efficient. Yeah, that's the main things. So these are just basically old redwood decking that people were throwing out. I either harvested them from them or took down something from them and got them for trade. These were off of the beach in the Russian River. I just went and grabbed, you can legally harvest 50 pounds of driftwood a day. Same with those pieces. So this was like each day, one day is 50 pounds, another 50 pound day, that's another 50 pound day. This again was just more pieces of driftwood off of the Russian River beach. And then if you look at the siding here, all of this siding, this was these same old pieces of redwood decking. I don't have a piece to grab. I wish I had one to grab, but they were just gnarly, ugly old pieces of decking that were rotted and people were throwing away. And I cut them in half and then made a joint, a shiplap joint, so they lap over each other, so that they're, you know, like a siding that repels the water. And if you look at the nice hue, this is all treated with a linseed oil. It's just linseed oil, and then all of the seams around the windows and the doors are just caulked for weather proofing. And then you can't really see this, but this might be a cool thing to take the camera down and look. But underneath here, there's these vinyl. They're like vinyl insulation tiles. You ever go into like an office and you've seen like there's these little tiles that are on the roof? And people just throw them away, right?
Acoustical tiles?
No, it's actually older than that. It's when they made these tiles that they had these little bit of fiberglass in them. Mm-hmm. But they were sort of just fiberglass tiles that stuck sort of like those acoustical tiles. Mm-hmm. And so I filled the whole bottom cavity with old recycled insulation and then capped them with these vinyl tiles, so it has this, it's almost encased in these tiles, these insulation tiles. It's really, I was surprised when I looked under there. I forgot, it was so long ago when I started it, I forgot how well the floor was insulated. So one other thing that's kind of cool is these windows. I didn't have the windows because I was committed to getting recycled windows, and you know, they don't just come every day. Mm-hmm. To get a good window that's recycled, that's sort of off Craigslist, it just doesn't happen. So I framed these out wider than I needed and taller than I needed, and so that I could just buy the window and then encase them back in to whatever size that I needed, which added a little wood and reduced a little bit of my insulation material, but it was, I think it was a good call in the end. Mm-hmm. Okay, and this is another cool thing. Come back over here. So this guy right here, this is an on-demand water heater. And on-demand water heaters, so this is another thing that I forgot to say in the beginning. One of the things that I'm really committed to is affordability. I don't want to be building sustainable, you know, stuff that everyone can do, but that's supposed to be for, you know, changing our culture for everyone, and then no one can afford it, you know? So everything I tried to do in this place, I tried to do with as low cost material as I could, as accessible material as I could, and with as simple design as I could, so you wouldn't have to be a master craftsman to do it. You could just do it. So this is $150, this on-demand water heater. I read the reviews online and they got great reviews, and the other ones that were like $600, they were getting crappy reviews. So I was like, okay, $150, and it's great because it's designed for a very small space. And the other ones that were designed for bigger spaces were a ton more money and weren't going to work as good. The main thing with the on-demand water heater in this small space was I had to have, for energy efficiency, and it's amazing that they don't think about this, that it's not even really an issue, so I had to have something that would turn on at a low flow. Because if I'm trying to save water, which is another sustainability thing, we want to save as much water as we can, if you use an on-demand heater, a lot of them are designed not to go on until you have like 2 gallons per minute. Or 3 gallons per minute, which is a huge amount of water that you're going to waste. So this one goes on at 0.5 gallons per minute. which is perfect, which is what you want for a small scale living environment. And then you got your tank back here, which is just the refill. You refill your tank as you use it. And then I had to add a water pressure regulator to make sure that the water pressure was correct. All right, so I guess we'll go inside. Any questions?
Oh, I noticed the black piping. Is that
to
divert the gray water?
Yeah, so the black pipe that you see are both gray water. It's gray water from the shower and gray water from the kitchen. And then this is something that I did to increase insulation and to reduce the holes in the wall. Was I actually created a vent outside of the walls. Usually the vents go up through the roof, and these ones are outside and just vents. They're the same kind of one-way vents, just sitting on the outside of the house.
Are you fast? You go faster?
Now we're all going to have to try to cram into the microphone.
I'm excited about video. Yeah, video it first. Get into the...
So first thing you see, so this actually came off of one of my other houses.
Oh, nice.
So nice little light, yeah, it works. Well, eventually I'll put an LED bulb in there. And then, so come on in. Okay. Don't be shy, come on in. It's all right. Okay, where to start? So let's start on the floor. That's the easiest. So one of the design ideas that I was working around when designing this was to use sort of minimal layers. So try to take away layers of construction to minimize the amount of materials that I could use and try to use the most natural materials. So underneath, so this is basically a sheet of plywood. These are sheets of plywood with a Vermont Naturals non-toxic polyurethane-like finish on them. And then underneath them is just recycled patches, a patchwork of old pieces of plywood, which makes up the floor base. One thing that I forgot to say earlier is that all of the framing, the internal framing that you don't see on this project is what's called a farm load. It's stuff that's just bent and weird, and they're just going to get rid of, and they just band it all together and they sell it super cheap. So we got a farm load that was this old stuff that they were going to throw away. They banded it together, and so when it's banded together, it's all straightened, because the reason they sell it is because it's all wonky, falling apart. They being a lumber yard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this being Healdsburg Lumber, for example. So it's all wonky and moving all these different directions. So we left it banded together and actually wetted it down and let it sit through the winter. And so the wetting and the moisture and the banding actually reshaped the wood, so a lot of that wood straightened out. Wow. Some of it actually stayed pretty wonky, but a lot of it straightened out. So that's everything that you see is framed in that stuff.
Slow process, but
it's a long process, yeah, for sure, for sure. All of the trim pieces that you're looking at, these are again these are just all old pieces of decking that people were throwing away that I ripped in half and planed and just made into trim pieces.
they're pretty.
Yeah, they look great, man. I mean, that's the idea that I was trying to create with the aesthetic is, a rustic but a nice look. Inside the walls, which you can't see, is the insulation. So it's either a recycled batt insulation. Some of it's actually mineral wool, which is a very non-toxic old and newer alternative for insulation. And then one of the neatest stories is inside the roof is, I have a friend who's a lifeguard, and we live right next to the Russian River, and the people will use these big foam blocks for their deck, for their docks, not decks, for their docks, right? And they have their little kayaks and their docks out there, and those things will, big rains will come and they blow them out onto the coast. And so one day he went and collected all of these I have a picture of in his lifeguard truck with all these giant, you know, stacked up 10 feet tall and 6 feet wide of all these big foam blocks. And so we took those foam blocks and we shaved them down and we stuck them in all of the rafter cavities on the roof. And the rafter cavities are actually, they kind of bow a little bit because they were so crammed in there, but it's really densely insulated. Another thing about, so one of the design parameters of this place was I really wanted it to be energy efficient, because you know everybody and their brother in in Northern California is building tiny homes now. That's their thing. But nobody's really focusing on energy efficiency or recycled material for that matter. Or even sustainable materials. So those are the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to do something that was tiny, energy efficient, recycled, and sustainable material. So when you build a house, it's super important that you have a good R value. And R value means like how fast the heat can penetrate through the material. But it's more important that you don't have any air leaks. So all of this, the air barrier for this house is the inside wall. So this drywall is the air barrier for this house. So all of these seams around these trim pieces and around the windows, they're all precisely caulked. So everything is airtight. If we turn on this fan right now, so this is the exhaust fan for the heater. So I'm going to come on in a little. Why don't you guys come in or go out? Okay, and you're outside then. So actually I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to close this window. And then this window too. And you'll see when I turn on this fan, even though I have not yet put the doorknob in or the ceiling down there, that door is going to pull itself open because there's no more air leaks in this house. And then once I seal all that off, then there's going to be very little air leakage. There's going to be a little on the windows because if I were to get windows that didn't air leak, that would have cost $1,000 each. So that wouldn't have worked.
And you want actually a little fresh air to circulate.
Eventually, in the next iteration, I'm going to put in a heat recovery ventilator in here. I have to decide where. I'm either going to put high or low, but there's a small Panasonic that I'd like to put in here, just a little HRV. Okay, so then a couple other design parameters. So sleeping loft is up here. Everything you see is just simple plywood construction. Basically just glued and finish nailed together. These are all the cabinets that you see. I didn't buy any of this new. I got all of this stuff plus this one for $100 on Craigslist.
Nice.
Just stuff that, you know, and then I made it work. I just tried to put it together. These little cabinets, these are kind of my favorite little design features. You put these on rollers, so you can put them on, so you can have your chair here and still be able to access. You wouldn't have to go in the front. Let's
I love
see.
how the stained glass matches the way
Yeah,
it is
it's
outside.
nice the way that happened. This is our one IKEA. There's a couple IKEA things. This is we like the little dish rack from IKEA.
Yeah,
Pretty
Yeah.
good.
those are
Yeah.
perfect.
I think that's all I got in terms of. So basically, you've got your propane camp stove, and then you know this was just a prototype handmade hood. Carbon monoxide detector just in case, just to be safe. This is a little small space heater, again a propane heater. It's direct vented out, so you don't have any gases in the place.
Actually, that CO2 or CO
I'm
is
sorry?
a good feature. It's a
The
good
carbon
idea.
monoxide
Yeah.
detector. Oh yeah,
When
for
you've got
sure.
it inside
Yeah,
here.
yeah. So.
How about the beautiful metal braces
Oh yeah.
on here?
So we
Isn't
put
great?
the metal braces on here to hold the loft up. And then this was a wonderful craftsman, John Haynes, who lives just down the street, who built that ladder for us.
And the
That's
shower. Shower's good. Oh,
Yeah, the shower.
shower's
I think in the next iteration of this, I'd like to do. That's the hardest thing to figure out how to do a natural, sustainable, non-toxic material is how to get something really waterproofing.
Outdoor shower?
Outdoor shower is great, but it does get cold in the winter here. So
You got hot water, that's what
yeah. So let's just walk. Any questions, and then we'll cruise on outside and do a little finish.
Is this the same, like the type of varnish you were talking about on the floor?
No, this is actually this is a resin coating, like a surfboard resin coating. Again, in the next iteration, I would do probably that's a you know, the next stage of sustainability is how to create a countertop that's really local, low cost. You know, maybe just a recycled granite piece from another construction project would be the next iteration, that kind of stuff. So,
I can't see what brand it
I don't. It's just right here. Whatever it says, your house warmer. That's the brand, actually.
Yeah, and the table folds down.
Yeah.
I don't.
So nice.
is.
They have dinner there.
$250.
Wow.
$250 for the oven. Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, thank you all for coming.
Hey!